Hey guys, it's Anthony. I'm here to talk about APUSH Chapter 36, which stretches from 1945 to 1952, focusing on the end of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War. Now, at the end of World War II, the main focus in America was the economic downpour. The economy was struggling because the war was now over, and you may ask, why is this a bad thing? This is a bad thing for the economy because World War II actually helped America get out of a depression. This is due to all the manufacturing that was required for the United States to keep up in World War II. So when the war ended, there was a severe lack of production in America, and people found it difficult to find jobs. And now, like every good government should, the government of America tried to help their citizens by instilling new policies, such as the Taft-Hartley Act, which basically outlawed all closed businesses, or businesses that only allowed union members. This allowed the everyday person to find a job easier, as opposed to people who were just in unions. Other policies instilled included Operation Dixie, the Employment Act of 1946, and the big one, the GI Bill of Rights, which basically helped the veterans, people who fought in World War II to defend America. It helped them to get an easier education, because normally soldiers find a really hard time to get jobs and get educated once they return from the war. A common question about the post-World War II period is, how did the economy get back on its feet? This was due to productivity, and productivity was generated by new technologies and further educating of the American people. An important element of improvement in productivity is found at farms. Farms were previously the center of the workforce because it required so many people on a farm to produce just a little amount of food. Now, during this time period, the use of mechanization and the use of fertilizers drastically reduced the amount of hands needed on a farm. This created many new jobs in new industries such as research and development. An extremely important element of the post-World War II and pre-Cold War period is the movement of people into new areas. Perhaps the area with the most in-migration was the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt was a stretch of 15 states going from Virginia to California. During this time, the Sun Belt grew twice as fast as the Frost Belt, or the northeastern states. People's reasonings for moving to the Sun Belt included search of jobs, better climate, and much lower taxes. A much smaller demographic movement during this time period was white flight, which was white people moving to the suburbs because they were afraid of black people moving into their areas and disrupting the peace. While this ideology is clearly very racist, it's still important to note in this chapter because it caused the movement of many people into the suburbs. The suburb reflected a greater movement during this time period due to the construction of highways and the movement of people out of cities into suburbs so they could commute on the highways to their jobs in the cities and have more peaceful lives living in the suburbs. This period is defined by the baby boom, which is a period in which the veterans of World War II returned to America and had many kids, which caused a huge spike in the population. The president during this time period was none other than Harry S. Truman, who is a perfect candidate for this time period. Nicknamed the Gutty Man from Missouri, Truman was the quintessential average American. He was, in fact, the first president for several years who did not have a college degree. Truman was an average man tasked with an enormous job. His job was to restrict the spread of communism by the Soviet Union. He was not alone in this task. The majority of the Western world, including France and Great Britain, were opposed to the expansion of communism. Policies like the Truman Doctrine and the Marshall Plan enabled the United States to assist Western Europe in resisting the Soviet Union. The Truman Doctrine expanded on the policy of containment and enabled the United States to restrict the growth of communism. The Marshall Plan was focused more on helping the other countries of Europe. George Marshall was determined to re-establish the superpowers of the Western world that previously resided in Europe before World War II, like Great Britain and France. Congress established several reforms during this time period, including the National Security Act, the Secretary of Defense, the CIA, and the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. Despite the conflict during this time period, Truman was re-elected in 1948 and went on to support new ideas such as the Fair Deal and the Social Security Act of 1950, which we take for granted to this day. All of these developments and more led to the more significant events in the Cold War, including the Korean War and the Cuban Missile Crisis, which we will cover in the next chapter, chapter 37, so I'll catch you guys next time.